you've written and stated in public that you do not believe that people should do psychedelic substances until they have matured into adulthood. But however, I would say, most of us wouldn't be here if we hadn't had these very important formative experiences with psychedelics as teenagers or, young adults, certainly before the age that you have in the past said was appropriate for such things. And so I would like to know, what's your view on that, and why do you think that way? Why do you take this elitist viewpoint that's kind of cutting off the experience of a lot of people?
Well, they asked for a challenging question.
Well, first of all, I'm an unashamed elitist. So aside from that, I was expressing the kind of feelings that any parent has. We also would love it if our kids wouldn't have sex before age 18 at the youngest, but it happens.
We have always told Zena the truth. Zena's our daughter. She's a teenager now, and a lot of her friends are experimenting with marijuana, and I don't think any of them are doing psychedelics yet because she goes, she's got, I don't know, because of the school she goes to or whatever. But we've always told her the truth. We've never told her more than she wanted to know. We don't try to share everything about our lives. If she asks us a question, we answer it, fully, but not, to bore her to death. And she's always come to gatherings like this. She's taking her own vacation right now, but she, when she was very little, she saw Alex doing slide talks in which he talked about LSD and his experiences on drugs, and I think it just went over her head. I mean, at a certain point she said, well, I know that you've tried, she was really little, and she said, well, I know you've tried marijuana and stuff, but no more than that. And I just went, okay. And I didn't say anything. It's like, that's kind of like what she wanted to believe.
When you are under the age of, say, 16, you haven't really lived that long. You haven't had time to find out what the core of yourself is. There are a tremendous number of questions, as well as a lot of hormones. And the psychedelics are very important and sometimes very strong and hard-hitting tools for self-exploration. And you don't know what you're going to suddenly find yourself in. It might be the sorrow place or the valley of the shadow of death, and that is exactly what it feels like. I think if you have a good babysitter and you have some idea of what it is you're looking for, then even a 16 or maybe exceptional 15-year-old could deal with it. But it's better if you wait a while until you've lived a little bit. And then you may find yourself less frightened, less panicked by the inevitable difficult places. And by difficult, I mean really, really difficult. It's just a preference.
I'd like to add one thing to that. As Anne says, however, there are 15, 16-year-olds who do these materials, and I think if it is going to be done by a younger person, it has become very essential to get factual information available, not prejudicial, not don't do it type of information, but here are the goods and here are the bads. Here is what you must watch for. This is what you should be attentive to. It'd be good to know the source of your material, because there are a lot of ugly things that are out there masquerading or being sold in place of reasonable psychedelic drugs. So if the person is going to use the drug, be in that experience, he or she should have information available to them and have it factually correct.
Which very seldom happens, unfortunately.
Well,
does anybody else want to say anything about the question?
My
of John?
solution, and I have 5 kids, was to do drugs with them when they were of age. I was about 16 years old. We did mushrooms. I did mushrooms with all of them, one at a time. And they're adults today, and they do not have any drug problem whatsoever. And they're all fine, upstanding, beautiful, wonderful people. So the idea there is to be open with them, explain it to them, and I think it takes care of itself from that point on.
This is another one. For the young psychonaut interested in all mind states matters, can you suggest possible careers? Academic, scientific, political? That I'm going to throw to you.
Whoa.
Or all three?
Or all three, yeah. I get asked this question quite frequently. I want to get into the area you're working in, into the area of scientific exploration, discovering of new things, creating of new drugs, finding out why they work, how they can be used. My recommendation almost always goes back in much the same thing. Get into the academic world, get your bachelor's degree. It doesn't really primarily matter what topic it's in. Get into a graduate school, get your doctorate degree. It almost doesn't matter what topic it is in, but get that PhD, and then it's good if you want to get into chemistry, maybe something in chemistry or biochemistry would be good. But get that degree, because that is then the signature in your society that you're not here, but you're here. And that it doesn't, as long as that PhD is you are, in essence, a little bit more of a voice. Then you can find perhaps a graduate advisor, take a postdoc somewhere, and they learn the tools of research. Don't necessarily impose your hopes on another person. The man who's going to be or the professor who's going to be your advisor has his own plans, his own ideas. Learn from him the skills, the mechanics, the machinery of research. Then you're in a position to say, well, I think I want to go in the way I want to go. I've learned the tools of chemistry. I've learned the tools of pharmacology. I'm now familiar with the tools of research. Then you can begin finding your own location and following your own questions. Then you, of course, have to find your own funds. There are many mysteries that come along, but you have the background of a qualified training, and you have the background of academic degrees that make you have a voice that can be heard when you're trying to locate funds and answer questions. So I think the academic world is probably the best route, one I would recommend, and pursue it to the point of becoming recognized as having achieved a success there.
What are the best strategies to support toward legalization of psychedelics? Okay. Do you want to go?
Okay, let me open up on that a little bit. I had a very delightful lunch about 3 or 4 years ago with Thomas Szasz, a very good psychiatrist, writer in Spain. And I used that word to him. I asked him, how can we go about getting drugs legalized? And he pretended he did not know the meaning of the word legalized. So I said, decriminalized. And he pretended he didn't know the meaning of the word decriminalized. The Hungarian accent I can't imitate. And he said the word you're looking for is repeal of drug law. And I thought about this for a while, and it occurs to me, if you legalize, you are changing law. If you are decriminalizing, you're changing law. If you repeal, you are removing law. And it's a very subtle point, but a very good one. Namely, you have a federal drug law, as you are probably quite aware. We also have 50 state drug laws that are, in essence, Xerox copies of the federal drug law. So if you were to remove all federal drug law, repeal it in its entirety, you would not have lost a scintilla of control over the drugs, but you've returned the prosecution concept, the criminal aspect, from the federal government, where it has no business being at all, to the state government, which is, of course, much closer to what you're interested in.